Right. So go ahead and just let yourself get comfortable. Find a position that works for you to be alert yet relaxed. And you can sit up, or if you need to, you can also lay down. If you do so, please put a bolster or pillow under your knees just so your lower back will drop and you'll be more comfortable through the sit. And let's just go ahead and go inside. You can close your eyes if you like, or stare softly at the floor in front of you, not taking anything in particular. And just noticing how your mind, body, and heart are in this moment. It's been a full day, and the conditions are such that it's like this right now. And in particular, I just invite you to notice your relationship to how it is. So just noticing, are you feeling compassionate toward yourself, or judgmental, or a little brusque, impatient? And whatever you find, just simply allowing that. Just again, knowing that conditions are such that you've shown up in this kind of relationship at the moment. No judgment, just it's like this. And if there's some harshness toward yourself, to perhaps just take a moment for a little kindness, a little self-compassion. You might put your hand on your heart, or just breathe out and take a little more of a gentle attitude with yourself. Some kindness. And just taking a moment to also notice your relationship with your body. How do you relate to your body? Again, it might be with kindness and appreciation, or there may be judgment or fear, mistrust. So there's just noticing, oh, there's this relationship with the body. Again, no judgment, just nice to know this is how it is. And we can do the same with our mind. Just noticing our relationship to our mind. Do we love our mind, trust our mind and its capacity? Or perhaps we're not that connected, or we judge ourselves for our capacity in thinking. Again, if there's any judgment or harshness, just noticing that and breathing it out, allowing for a more gentle attitude or accepting attitude. And finally, just taking a moment to notice your relationship with your heart. Are you close to your heart? Rest in your heart? Or do you tend to take some distance from it? Perhaps you're not comfortable with your feelings. Or you're afraid of your heart or your feelings. Again, no judgment. We come to these relationships and this attitude for good reason. And again, if there's difficulty, just bringing some kindness or compassion, some allowing. And then taking a moment for whatever you've been noticing to just gently breathe it out on the out breath, allowing yourself to empty of the day's stories. Coming back to that familiar spaciousness and quiet. Emptying. And allowing yourself to breathe into that spacious quiet. Letting go of stories. and taking your seat here. And you can let yourself become the spacious quiet. Let go of stories. Let go of the body for a moment. And let the spacious quiet be your body. So that spacious quiet is breathing. You might take a moment to notice spacious quiet's relationship to the world. Is it agitated, relaxed, neutral? Just this. And you can let go of the world and just let yourself rest here in the spacious quiet. Just this. Resting here. Hopefully that allowed you to let go of the day a little bit and relax. So this evening, we're going to focus on the social and relational domain. And just to catch people up who maybe haven't been with us, we're going to be finishing up the domains. I have 2 more after this. So we'll do the spiritual domain next week, which will be fun. And then the integrative domain. And then I'm going to take a break. As I was saying before, I had started this back in April of 2020, thinking that I was going to do 6 weeks to just help people do a COVID transition. And here we are a year and a half later. And so I think it'll be good because I'm excited to be finishing my book. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to do that. So, and for those of you who would like a full review, you can go back on YouTube through at truesuccessforall.com and look at earlier recordings that we have on all the subjects. And also you can get to them through my website, fallon-cyr.com. So the social relational domain, this is, to me, my husband Mark would probably agree with me. He would say all the domains are equally important. But I have to tell you, I think this one is one of the most important domains. And before we get started, let me invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pen again, if you haven't already, just because we're going to do a little reflection for yourself. And so you'll have a map that you can use for your own work, your own personal work over the summer. Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and get started, and hopefully people can still hear me who are grabbing a pen. So in the social relational domain, this is both about socializing, our ability to socialize with others, but it's really about how we relate to everything. And I mean everything. So it's not just people, how we relate to people, but also objects as well. And this is why I think it's so important, because how you relate to the world determines a lot about how successful you are in life, how well you do in life, how well you negotiate stress. So this idea of the relational aspect is really important. I'll give you an example of like objects. For instance, if you're someone who doesn't trust very well, then chances are you don't trust people, but you also don't trust animals. You don't trust God. You don't trust the universe. You don't trust when something happens, you might think it's out to get you, those kinds of things. I remember seeing when I was in graduate school, to prove this point, one of our professors brought in a list of insurance claims. They were real insurance claims to show people's minds in relationship to objects. And so you could read these insurance claims, and people were saying things like, the pole jumped out in front of me and hit my car on purpose, And it's like, really? Did the pole do that? Right? Things like that. The dog meant to get in front of me and get hit. So people project all kinds of relational things onto objects as well. So that's why this one is so important. So when we're looking at relationship, there's a couple of different areas that I want to name that influence how we relate to the world. The first one is the juxtaposition between interpersonal and intrapersonal. So interpersonal means between people, how it goes between you and others. And intrapersonal means how it goes inside yourself. Or if you're in a group, how it goes within your group. But I'm going to use it as how it goes inside yourself tonight. And so depending on how well developed you are in either of those spheres, you'll be more successful or less successful when it comes to social and relational moments in life. So for instance, in intrapersonal, which is within me, how well you know yourself and how well you know your feelings and understand your motivations, all that influences how well you understand other people. So if you don't understand why you do, if you don't understand, for instance, how you could eat a whole bag of potato chips, if you don't understand that, then it's really hard to understand that when you see somebody eating a whole bag of potato chips, right? You'll be like, how could you do that? Well, if you know, and you're like, oh, been there, done that, then you're going to have a lot more empathy for the world as you go through. You'll also have a lot more skillfulness for how to relate to people. So let's say you see a child who's frozen, right? And, maybe something scary happened. If you understand what it takes to calm down when you're frozen and scared, you're going to be really good at going over to that child and saying, hey, look at me, come here, breathe. Hey, what happened? Take them up on the lap because you know internally what it takes to calm down. So our intrapersonal skill, how well we know ourselves, work with ourselves, calm ourselves, greatly influences our interpersonal skill. So I just want to name that. So if you don't know yourself very well, and that's more the emotional domain, the psychological domain, you might want to go back and look at some of those. If you want to improve your social skills, go back and look at also your emotional and your psychological domain because that'll help you. The second way that we come into relationship is through what's called attachment theory. And our attachment means this is part of our psychology, how we created a matrix or a lens through which we see the world. And so we may see the world as a trusting, loving place, as a scary place, as an attacking place. And all of that is wired into our mind and our brain through our relationships, our early relationships particularly. Most important are our parents and family, and then our community and events that happen to us. And so I just want to name, there's 4 different attachment styles that are generally accepted. And I just want to name them because it can be really helpful to know where you kind of fall in on this. It's also helpful to know how someone else is falling into this so that you don't personalize their behavior. So the first one is known as a secure attachment. And that's when somebody's healthy, trusts the world, does really well, easy to connect with people. The second one is known as an anxious attachment. That's when you worry. You're so scared that there isn't going to be good attachment that you're worried about it all the time. And so people who have anxious attachments might be very clingy. They might even sometimes, if they're so worked up, they might even push away attachments a little bit. But mostly they tend to be on the worried kind of spectrum. Do you like me? Am I good enough? Will you be my friend? Those kinds of things. Where are you going? When are you coming back? Those kinds of things. Are you mad at me? Those kinds of questions. So that's the anxious style. And then the third style is known as the avoidance style. Those are the tough people who tend to be, I don't need anybody. Who cares? I don't care about you. I don't care about anybody. I'm a loner. I do it all myself. I'm all strong. Phooey on you guys, right? We probably know a couple of those people. You might be one of those people. And then the third one is called chaotic or disorganized. And those are people that are really unhealthy in relationship. So these are the people who are all over the map, very chaotic relationships, lots of head trips. Sometimes you'll see this with addicts. They'll play lots of head games with their partner, not very reliable, cheat, steal, those kinds of things. So that's like the most disorganized, unhealthy version of attachment. So know that these tendencies come from our early experience. So if you're sitting there with this list and you're like, hey, I just realized my partner comes out of this corner, know that they come for a good reason. Some things happened early in life, formations happened that really broke their trust or their ability to show up. And so we just have a kind, gentle attitude about this. When you see yourself in these, to also have a kind, gentle attitude and say, oh, yeah, that's my style. That's kind of how I am. No judgment. You might get curious about the stories that got you there. What are some of the early stories that maybe got you to be more anxious or more avoidant or more chaotic? And again, no judgment. We always come to this with loving kindness, and we work to release the formations that are feeding these fears so that we can settle back into our essential nature. Our essential nature is not so worried about all this stuff. So, what I'd like to do now is do a little mindfulness exercise. And just like we've done over the last couple of weeks, just walk you through some particular scenarios that have to do with this domain. And I'm going to just take a moment to have you go inside. I'm going to give you a contact. I'll just say some words. And you notice what comes up, what statement comes up, what memory comes up. And then I'm just going to give you a moment to jot it down, just to make a note for yourself. And again, by doing this, by the end, you'll have a map of all the major themes in your social relational domain. And then you can spend time going through them and deepening down, finding the formations that are there, releasing them, and really freeing yourself to come back into essential nature. So you can just close your eyes and get comfortable, but have your pen and paper close by. And so in this one, I want you to just take a breath or two clearing, just letting go of all that information. And I'm just going to ask you to imagine being alone in a room, someplace really comfortable. Might be your favorite chair, your favorite spot, maybe out in the garden, but just someplace where you're alone and comfortable and enjoying. You might be working on your computer, whatever it might be that is a soothing kind of activity for you. And so you're there enjoying your moment. And then notice that a loved one or a friend or another person walks into the room. And I want you to notice your reaction. So I'm there by myself doing this, and that person walks in, and all these reactions happen. Positive, negative. Notice your body. Does it open towards them, contract? And then go ahead and take a moment to just write down what you noticed. Not long sentences, but just a few notes. My body did this. My mind said this. I instantly felt that. And again, no judgment. It's just giving you a taste of you in the world of relating. For some of us, it's wonderful. For some of us, it's a burden or fearful. And then you can put your pen down and come back inside and let that go. Again, taking some clearing breaths. And now imagine you're entering a large social group. You walk into a party, or there's a group of friends waiting at the park. And again, notice what happens as you come closer to this group. Notice your body. Notice the thoughts in your head, your feeling tone. What are you excited about, or what are you afraid of? And then go ahead and write that down. So in large groups, it's like this. For some of us, it feels like home. For others, it feels panicky. And then you can let go of that one and just breathe out that story. And just coming back to neutral. Notice what it's like being alone. What's it like for you when you're alone? Is that comforting, scary, depressing? And notice why. What thoughts go by? And go ahead and write those thoughts down. Being alone is like this, or feels like this. And then you can put your pen down and come back to yourself, breathing that out, letting go. Again, just taking a moment to rest. And then notice what comes up when I bring up caring for others, taking care of others. You may shine at this, you may resent it, you might be afraid of getting sucked in and having to take care of them forever. Whatever comes up for you, taking care of others brings up this. And again, taking a moment to write down the sentence, body contracted, heart opened. And then you can let go of that one. And just emptying, coming back to neutral for a moment. And how do you relate to being cared for, being taken care of? Perhaps when you're sick or struggling. What's it like for you when others try to take care of you? Again, noticing the body, thoughts going by. And then taking a moment to jot that down. And then coming back, letting that go as well, and just resting in that neutral space again, breathing out any stories. Notice what arises when I name commitment, making commitments to people, particularly things like getting married, moving in together, sharing a bank account, having children. What arises for you when you think about committing to somebody? You may rest and feel at ease, like, oh, finally I'm home. You might feel claustrophobic or suffocated. Whatever arises is fine. And then taking a moment to just note down any sentences that came. And then coming back to yourself and letting that one go. And noticing what comes up when I mention children, relating to children. Notice the sentences that come up, what happens in your heart or your body. Do you open towards them? Do you contract? Are you afraid of children or you hate children? If so, why? Maybe you feel you have to take care of children, they're a burden, or you love them. And then you can let that one go. We'll just do a few more. So being in the neutral space, breathing out any stories, just emptying the blackboard. What comes up for you when I mention romance? Romance. Noticing again your body, heart, and thoughts. Is this something that's positive for you? Or does it scare you or burden you? Maybe you feel funny doing romance, not comfortable doing it. Or you may absolutely love it. And taking a moment to write that down. Oh, romance is like this for me. And then you can let that one go. And just coming back to yourself again. Breathing out. Noticing what arises when I mention sex. What happens in your body, your heart and mind when you consider sex? Is this a wonderful thing for you? A scary thing for you? And again, just taking a moment to write down what you noticed. And then you can let go of that one. Breathe out any tension around it. And we'll just do 2 more. So noticing what arises for you when I mention love. What comes up in the face of love? Again, watching the body, watching the mind. You may believe in love, not believe in love. Whatever arises, no judgment. You may crave love or feel desperate for love. And then you can let that one go. And coming back to your center. Noticing what comes up when someone is generous to you. Really generous. They go out of their way. They do some beautiful service or gift you. When someone is generous with you, what comes up? For instance, are you very grateful? Or do you have an attitude more like, it's about time, somebody owed me? Or maybe you believe, I don't deserve it, and you push it away. Oh, not me. You don't understand. I don't deserve this. Just noticing how comfortable you are with people being generous towards you. Maybe you're afraid that you're going to owe them. You'll have to pay back. Whatever comes up, conditions are such. And then just taking a moment to write that down, what you noticed. And then go ahead and let that go. And just come back to neutral again, just to your center. letting go of all those relational stories. Now, just as a added thing, I just want you to take one moment to just go through your list and just maybe put an A next to ones that you're avoidant of. Like, oh, that's one where I push away. That's one where I push away. Oh, yeah, I don't let that one in. And then put maybe a G if you're grabby or grasping. Like, oh, I'm really clingy there. I really, like, I try to pull people in. I try to suck them in to take care of me, whatever. We'll just take a moment just to do that. And again, it's just for some extra information for you. And in doing this, you might notice a pattern. You might notice, oh, I have a lot of A's or I have a lot of G's. Again, no judgment. It's just, oh, it's like this right now. Got it. And you may notice, oh, I didn't realize I was so avoidant, or I didn't realize I was more graspy or desperate or fearful. Just something for to see your pattern a little bit. So, with each statement, as I've said before, you can take each one of those statements, the thoughts that came up or the contraction in the body, and you can deepen down into those and find the formation and the memory that set that response in place. And then you have an opportunity to release that formation. And when you do, you're going to settle back more into your essential nature. And then you can come back with your essential nature and check into that scenario. When that fearful 5-year-old is gone or the abandoned 10-year-old is gone, how does essence respond to this? How does essence respond to being alone? How does essence respond to being taken care of or commitment? How does essence respond to sex? This is where we get into tantric lovemaking. When we show up in our essential nature and we're not flooded with all our fears about relationship, then romance or relationship and sex have a whole different aspect to them, a whole different experience to them. So I just encourage you to take this map, particularly this one, since this one is affecting how you relate to everything in the world, this might be a really great one for you to start with. And if you can realign your social relational domain into a really healthy, not fearful, not avoidant, aspect of yourself, then you're going to relate to the world so much better. Whether it's your friends, enemies, the person down the street. I had multiple kids selling me lemonade today, so I got to relate to all the lemonade sellers. I was like, you guys are cleaning me out here. But it was like each face was like, want to buy lemonade from me? It's like, okay. So doing this domain is going to really clean up a lot of the other domains. For instance, if you're struggling in let's say the cognitive domain, and you want to get some tutoring and some help, how you relate to that tutor is going to have a lot to do with how well that goes, if that makes sense to you. Yeah. So our relations are showing up in every other domain. That's why I think this one is so important. So if this one is easy for you and you're great socially and romantically and relationally, yay for you. But I find that most of us have old pains in this one. And the more you release and do the work in this one, the more you will be filled with an incredible peace within. I have to tell you, most people I find have an anxiety underlying this domain. They're afraid that they're not good enough, they're going to get rejected, they're not loved. And as you release the formations in this domain, this really centers you. I mean, when you're relaxed with people, no matter who they are, like you are immovable. It doesn't matter if they attack you. It doesn't matter if they love you. You know, you can have what's called the worldly winds, praise and blame, and you can be absolutely at ease no matter what's happening with you and others in the world or you in the group. So I just think this is important. The last thing I'll say about it is that, like the psychological domain, this social relational domain is really key in terms of how we look at the world or how the world is functioning today. If you look at world leaders and you look at the people that are making our societies, making the rules for our societies, running our corporations, those kinds of things, the people that are running them are running off their own psychology and their own social relational maps, right? So if you're somebody who has to prove something, you have to prove your worth, you're going to go out there and compete in a way that you're not going to be watching out for everybody else. And so to me, when this domain gets dialed in and relaxed and relational, the whole world starts to get better. So you can do your part by doing your mind and your heart. Yeah. And helping children, being really kind with children and helping children, because how you treat them lays down their social relational map. So if you have children in your life, even if it's just in your neighborhood and they're selling you lemonade, how you respond to them is going to really make or break this domain for them. So just something to consider. And also know that when we mess it up, it can always be healed. Everybody can release the formations that were painful. We can always begin again, which is nice. So I hope this is of service to you and helps you in your practice in helping you get more free. This is one of my favorite ones, so I hope you play with it and have some fun with it. Let me see, two things. Oh, one thing I want to share is I just want to have real gratitude and thank you for the generosity that is shown to me. So for those of you who have made donations or made some kind of supportive gesture for me in this work, thank you so much. It really means a lot. It warms my heart and it helps me have the resources to keep developing and keep going and doing this work, particularly with Mark. He's making these videos to help people that want to learn this work at a really deep level. So for those of you who share your generosity with us, thank you very much, really. And if you're moved to be generous, you can always check out my website, and there's ways you can do that there. And then since this is Relational Day, let's go ahead and take a moment and just share this generosity, this work with the world at large. Let's just be relational as we do this work. So you can just take a moment to close your eyes if you like. And as we do this work and we take a moment and we take the courage to look at our own social and relational life, may we find the formations that need to be released so that we can be free and loving and joyful in relationship again, fully. And may that love bubble out from us to impact those around us, those we know and don't know. And may this work bubble out in the world so that more and more people can heal their own mind and heart, and that they can show up in love and social connection in a way that heals our greater world and brings a lot more joy and fun and playfulness. So thank you, everybody. We'll do 2 more, and then we'll take a break. So hope you guys have a great week. So wonderful to sit with you. Enjoy your bike rides or rafting or whatever it is you're doing these days out in the sunshine. And I'll see you guys next week. Okay.